Right, what have we got today? Boosh, it's another one from Wera. So German quality here, Wera, although I will check where it's made, so we'll have a quick look at the box. So this happens to be a driver here. It's a 1/4" version, this one, and it has a ratchet built in, which is a time-saving device. So I'll have a quick look at the box here, because that's the most boring bit. So there it is, with its component handle. The ratchet mechanism is here, and it comes with a Rapidapter. That's basically their locking head, similar to, if I got one knocking about, Milwaukee have a similar system where you need to actuate it to put it in and then it'll lock in, things like that. This works slightly differently, but it is compatible with normal 1/4" and power heads. When I talk about power heads, I'm talking about ones for power tools like that with the anvil on. Okay, so a quick look at the box, because that's the most boring bit. Blah, blah, blah. Nothing there. Wonderful. What does it say here? Well, let's check where it's made first. Made in Czech Republic. Now, someone made a comment on one of my last German tool videos, and he said, the Czech Republic is actually pretty good. Czech Republic and Poland are actually pretty good bets when it comes to making tools. Although, when you buy a German tool, I think it's a little bit disingenuous. You go, German tool, look at this. Oh, German, brilliant. Germany, .de, that's Germany, fantastic. Wera tools, Wera tools. Okay, but then right at the bottom, made in Czech Republic. I realise why they're doing that. They're trying to make more money, and the job of a company, unless they want their stockholders to, burn them alive, is to make money. And I get that, but try and make that a bit bigger. I mean, they haven't done the usual trick where they'll put a German flag on. You think wonderful, but then underneath it's got Czech Republic. So I'm not having to go to the Czech Republic or anywhere, anything like that. I have tools from all over the world, but generally you would expect a German tool like this to be made in Germany. This one isn't. However, I have used it and it's been fine so far for me. So what does it do? It shows you how to use a screwdriver. You put it in your hand, and then you can change the settings there. This just happens to be the retail box here. It is cardboard, and that pulls out just for display purposes. And the model number, so let's look at this. You've got this code, but the actual code is 816 RA, which stands for Ratcheting, and then 1/4", because that is the size of the drivers that it will take. And there's the code and blah, blah, blah. Don't use as a pry bar or a chisel, never. Although people will do that. Can I borrow a screwdriver? And then it comes back and it looks like it's been hit by a monster truck. So don't lend your tools out. There you go. And it says do that. And I don't know what he's doing there. Wafting a pump away. I don't know what's going on there. And then don't use as a pry bar. I get it. Right. Boring box. Right. Get this open. So Wera, even though it starts with a W, it's pronounced Wera. 816 RA ratcheting screwdriver. There was a little sticker in there, but I put this back in the box. This is how it arrived. And that's boring. Boosh. Get rid of that. Right. Here's the item here. Let's have a look at it. So there it is in my hand. And I mention this regularly just so you can make a comparison, but I'm quite a tall guy, 6'4". So nice, handy size. I do have a smaller one than this and a larger one than this, which I'll show you in a moment. But I like the component handles. I like them because they fit in my hand. It's almost like a piece of molded clay. And I realise there's people who don't like that. I think it was someone from Australia. I forget all the people I speak to. One of the subscribers says, I think the handles are crap. Okay, that's fine. It's not going to suit everyone. Something like that is, those more traditional designs are probably going to suit most people. But with this, I know it's Marmite. It's either love or hate, and that's fine. So they are calling this the Craft Form with a K. Craft Form Ergonomics handle. I like them. It happens to be plastic. Listen, that's plastic. But then this, and I'll show you with my thumb, I've done this in 4K. I've done it in extra high bit rate to try and get as much quality as possible. If I do that, you see it's very soft, and that leaves a slight indentation there. So it's component. In other words, it is plastic and soft. I wish the soft bits were a bit bigger, because the PB Swiss grip is one of my favorite of all time. The whole thing's soft. It's a bit tougher than that, but the whole thing's soft and it's beautiful to use. I haven't used these. I've used this to build a lot of computers, and you just don't get blisters or annoyed. You don't go, oh, my hand's getting a bit sore. Just doesn't happen. Whereas on this, it's possibly more likely, although there's a slight texture to this, but it's slightly smoothed off. And there's no sort of major seam lines. There's one there. You see the seam line on the plastic? If I get it to focus there, sorry. You see the seam line there and in the middle? I can't feel that, so I don't really care. It's a cosmetic thing. I cannot feel that at all. If I had to put a blindfold on and say, find that, I can't. So it's not an issue. And you've got the grip of this. There's your bits and pieces. And here is the ratcheting mechanism. Okay, so let's discuss the components of this. Right, so it has a Rapidaptor bit holder. So the Rapidaptor, basically, so if we have a 1/4", let's have this just happens to be Wera. It doesn't matter who you're using. So if you've got a 1/4" head, there is a 1/4" hex, see? So This is how it works. So there is a magnet on the bottom which helps hold this once it's no longer locked but still in, and it also holds fasteners. So if you have this and then we've all been, you know, you're busy with something else with your other hand and you use the magnet on this to pick up your fastener or hold it and it's not going to fall out. So how does this work? Well, when this goes in, it gets to a certain point, and watch this bit will click. So I'm going to push that in slowly, okay? So there, the magnet pulled it in, so you can tell there's a good strong magnet in there. It's not as strong as the PB Swiss, it's average, but it's okay. And then if we then keep pushing that, watch, there, see that click? And then this sleeve comes back over this section. That is now locked, so if I pull that, I can't get that out. That is not coming out. I prefer a locking head. I know some people say, well, it makes this more bulky. It does make it more bulky. Not that much more bulky though, look. You could argue this is a ratcheting screwdriver. I mean, the ratcheting mechanism's smaller, but look, it's not that much more bulky. And that's a locking one. I prefer them because what happens is I use a lot of posi drive and things like that, and I get fastener bite, and then you do that and it leaves the blinking bit driver in the fastener. It annoys me. I find that extremely annoying, especially if I'm doing a laborious task over and over and over again. It becomes infuriating. That's why I prefer a locking head. So if you watch, locks, isn't going to come out. So how do you take it out? Well, to take it out, you just move the sleeve back up again. It's very easy. Not much force is needed. So boom, you see that? And then that is, but it's not falling out because you've got the magnet. So now you pull it away from the magnet, which is easy to do. See the magnet there? It's pulling it to the last few millimeters there. So excellent design. I really like the Rapidapters. When I first looked at them and you see plastic, you think plastic, that's going to be a load of rubbish. It isn't. It's certainly on par with the Hazette, and it is on par with the although I would say this is a bit more hard wearing looking. I've never had one of these Rapidapters break, but it depends what you're doing or what bags you're throwing it into. But the Milwaukee one has been rock solid. Okay, so 1/4 inch compatible. I've tried it with that, and just to prove it, it does work and lock with power heads. So this is the type of head that you would put into a power tool. So let's try that. So it goes in, and then watch, you push, locked. I can't get that out. That does not come out. So works with power heads and extenders, no problem. And then to take it out, do exactly the same with the sleeve, and then remove it. I really like the Rapidaptor. So let's get a quick close look at that in 4K. There it is. And if you actually look down, right at the bottom there is your neodymium magnet, and you can sometimes see the locking mechanism there. It's a little bit, it's got like a sort of a ball bearing. I'll see if I can find it. I need a bit more light here. I run a flashlight channel, you know, and I haven't got a light on me. Can you see it? It's very difficult to see. Do I have a light? There's one. That'll do. Turn that on. Sorry about this. There's one. Right, turn that on. Very bright. Okay, so let's get a good look down there. Right, now you can see the ball bearing. So it's in the middle at the top. Can you see it? And there's a little spring. So see that ball bearing there? So that's what's doing the work here, so to speak, to grip the tool. And then if you look around, I would argue, and I can't see any other locking mechanism. So there's a singular lock mechanism. See it there? In the middle. Perfect. And it works. I haven't had anything pull out or anything like that, although I'm not, you know, yanking it like an idiot. So the ratchet. So let's put a head in. So let's say you are working. The ratchet can be actuated one-handed. So you don't have to do that. You can. So you've got left, lock, and right. So if you are wanting to tighten, you would go that way. To right. And it's in. So it's a nice mechanism actually, and listen, it's quite fine tooth. They are actually calling it fine tooth on the box. There, this called fine tooth. So the arc of motion is actually 8 degrees if you look it up on their website. So if we actually do that, I'll show you. So if you go tighten and then click, 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 it is fine. Look, there's not a lot of movement there. I think that's more important on a ratchet. A standard sort of ratchet. On a ratcheting screwdriver, I would argue it's less important, but it's still important because on a ratchet you need the arc of swing doesn't want to be too much, otherwise you can't get any work done if you've got limited space situation. Whereas on this situation, you're not going to be limited by how much you can rotate, I would argue, or it's very less likely. So very small arc of motion, 8 degrees, pretty good. and then you can lock it out as well. So if you put it on, so that's your selector there. So if you put it in the center mode, both ways, so it acts like a standard screwdriver. I like that feature, especially if I'm handing it to someone who doesn't understand ratchets, because it does sometimes happen. I think, oh, I can't be bothered. Boom, there. So in regards to that ratchet, it's pretty good. The back drag's average. Now, when I talk about back drag, if the back drag isn't particularly good, what happens is, until that fastener is really biting in, the ratchet isn't going to work, because when you pull it back again, it's just going to pull the fastener in and out. So if it's too tight in here, it becomes irritating. I would say this one is average. I'm not the world's major expert, but I would say something like the Vessel, especially the ball grip here, is finer. And I'm not talking about the arc of swing. I'm talking about the back drag. So on this, it's got a very, very fine sort of. I mean, I've built quite a few machines with this, and it's beautiful, nice to use. The PV Swiss has an okay back drag. It's pretty good. You putting plugs in and out, it's pretty good. The Hazite here isn't a ratcheting, but I just think that it's average. I'll give it certainly a pass, but not a lot of people will be interested in back drag anyway. But it is important, because you're trying to save yourself time, and if you've got to wait until it's really, really tight before the ratchet comes into play, well, how much work have you actually saved yourself? Probably not a lot. They are claiming this will do up to 50 Newton meters of max torque. You can change that to foot-pounds if you are in America, because I can't be bothered. 50 is, for a hand tool, that's more than enough. In other words, it's not going to fall to bits. So, like I say, the back drag's okay, and the ratchet is lockable. So, well, let's go for some pros and cons. But first, just so you can see the size difference, I have my, where is it? There it is. I have one of these ones. So this is the 81841, which has bits in it. So you open it like that. There's your bits, and the handle, I would say, is large. It's okay for my hand, but it might be a bit large for some people. So that is the largest. This is this one, and then I have a smaller one. So this is an older one that I use for work, and that is slightly smaller. So just so you can see, and this happens to be the 816. Let's have a look. Yeah. So I just want to make sure I've got these codes right. So 816R. It's not, even though it says R, it's non-ratchet. It's normally RA for the ratchets. So this is Rapidaptor, I think. So you have a Rapidaptor built into the handle there, and there's the handle, but it's very small. So it's almost too small for me. Because look, when I grip it, I mean, I've got my little finger can almost. It works. I like this, and I use this at work. But I would have preferred a bigger handle, and this is bigger. So for me, that's like the Goldilocks zone, but I still like that. But this feels a little bit more comfortable. So just so you can see the size difference. Now, one-handed ratchet switch is something I think is important, because you don't want to be mucking around. It's a bit more difficult on the Vessel. You've got to, like, well, I have to claw my hands and then try and change it, and then, right, okay, I've done it, right, that way. Right, let's change it the other way. I wish there was more marks on this, because there's too much smooth bits where you can't get a grip. Whereas on this, no matter where you are, bang, click, bang, click. I find that quite easy. You could argue this is quite bulky, but I don't really think it's getting in the way, because look, it's no bigger than the highest point of the handle, so I think that's pretty good. The ratchet locks, which I think is an important feature when you don't want to use that. The Rapidaptor locks the heads in nicely, and it's got a magnet for your fasteners, and it works with power heads. So I like this component handle. So I think I should give this quite a high mark. Now the thing is, there are some cons. For me, I like the handle, but there will be people who do not like the handle, and I get it, because it's quite bumpy. I don't really care. It's not bumpy to the extent where I go, oh, that's going to be a hot spot. I'm going to get a blister here if I don't wear gloves. But just bear that in mind. You may not like them. Go to a hardware store and try one of the craft foam handles. If you love it, that's great. If you don't, just be careful. The back drag's average. So when it's average or poor, how much work are you saving yourself? Not a lot, because you've got to tighten the damn thing in. Right now I can use the ratchet. You're not saving yourself a lot of time. And there's a few rattles here and there, so even if we take that out, you know, it's like a percussion instrument. Yeah, you know, the mamas and the papas. It's a little bit rattly. That doesn't mean it's rubbish. That just means that might annoy some people. I don't care that much, because this would be like pushed into a pocket or whatever. And when it's in use, it's, you know, you could say, well, if you don't like noise, don't get a ratchet, because listen, you've just there's some noise, but it's just there is some rattle there. that way, movement. In fact, if I put this in, this will show you how much play there is in the head. So let's see. So if I hold that still, and then let's try and move this around. So you can see there is quite a bit of movement there. Look, see? This is an extreme example. I'm using a very long bit holder here. But on a standard bit, play is, you know, non-existent and minimal there. Right, so look. Very, 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 very small and slight, and it doesn't affect the use of it, but just something to point out there. But brilliant. So I'm going to give this 8.5. Now, okay, TrailTrek. Why are you not giving it a higher mark? You said you like Wera. I do like Wera, and I use Wera at work, and I've got multiple Weras. I think if they could make that back drag slightly better, I would give it a higher mark. I'd probably give it 9 or something like that. But I've got to mark it on what I think, and I'm not an expert. I never claim to be an expert, but that's just what I think. So I'll give it an 8.5. If you think I'm full of it, tell me down below and tell me what you use. In fact, tell me what you use, because I love the PB Swiss, but they're very expensive. The Hazets, I've got the nice handle like the VHAR. It depends what you're after, put it that way. But when we're talking ratcheting, if you want something delicate, you may want to look at the vessel. This just happens to be an extended one, but it's very, very sort of small motions, and it's more for delicate work, I would argue. You don't have to use it for delicate work, but it feels like that to me, this ball grip and small movements. Whereas this feels like a general purpose, and in that regards, I think it does really well. Just be aware if you're thinking, oh, TrailTrek quite likes that, I might go and get one. Just be aware, before you do that, there is another slightly updated version of this, and I think it is called the 838 RA-RM. That's off the top of my head, I may be wrong. But if I remember rightly, the Ratchet, it's a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. This is definitely smaller. And they're calling it a speedhead, because I think once this is on, you can actually keep turning that to start off the bit, so you're not having to do that, then use the ratchet. I'll try and do a review of that when I get a hold of one, but in the meantime, 8.5. I think this is a great, small, compact ratcheting screwdriver that works, and it's from a decent company, although people go, oh, it's made in Czech Republic. It is made in the Czech Republic, okay, but I haven't had anything from the Czech Republic which has been rubbish, so bear that in mind. Okay, thank you for joining me. I've tried to keep this short, but as usual, we're heading off towards 20 minutes, so apologies for that. Any comments, stick them down below. I will get them the best as I can. I get bombarded all the time, and I try my best to keep up. So thank you very much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.